Hello, everybody. Just wanted to say again, hope you're doing well. This is going to be a little bit of a raw video as I can't figure out how to do it on my computer. So I just want to walk you through Lab 36. If you turn to page 126, I'll go through some of the examples. So if we look at table 36.1, you have three pieces of data here. You have the group number. Now group number can be age, it could be the year, it could be the minute, it could be the cohort. So there's a lot of different things. The example will tell you what the group number means. In this case, it's age. S of X is the survivorship for that year. So when you say S of X, this first line 200 is S of 0. 180 is S of 1. 140 is S of 2. 80, S of 3. 0, S of 4. Those are the survivors in that group. Now we have the deaths. That's D of X. So it's the number of deaths in that group. Now, how we figure out how to get the survivors decreasing in number, for each group number, you have to take 200, subtract 20, and that gives you 180, because those are the number of deaths from the original amount that you started with in that group. The 180, you're going to subtract the 40 deaths, and that gives you 140. 140, you're going to subtract 60, and that gives you 80. And then 80 minus 80 gives you 0. Now we're going to add one more component, is that we want to figure out a new column that's called survivorship, and that's the percent of survivors. So here again, the group is the year or the age or the cohort. The S of X are the survivors. The D of X are the deaths. And the L of X is the survivorship or the percent of survivors. Now, we're going to have a formula to figure out survivorship. It's always S of X divided by S of 1. This stays consistent. So when we look at our S of 1, it's 200. So our formula is always going to be S of X divided by 200. So let's go back again. You have 200 individuals you start with. We always start with 0 because if you think about birth is time 0. You don't turn 1 until 365 days later. So between 0 and 1, there is time. It just means time starts at 0. So in your 0 group, you have 200 individuals you start with. You have 20 deaths. You're going to take 200 minus 20. 200 minus 20 gives you 180. Then you're going to take 180, subtract the 40 deaths of that group. So 180 minus 40 gives you 140. Then we're going to take 140, we're going to subtract 60. 140 minus 60 gives you 80. Again, 140 minus 60 gives you 80. And then we take 80 minus 80 gives you 0. 80 minus 80 gives you 0. So again, you can see you subtract, 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 and subtract. Then for the L of X, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking, and so in this case, if we're taking S of X, divided by S of 1, you have 200 divided by 200 equals 1. Now, in the next one, we have 180 as our S of X. So we're going to take 180 divided by 200, and that gives you 0.9. Our S of X in this group is 140. So we're going to take 140 divided by 200, which gives you 0.7. Our S of X here, 80. We're going to take 80 divided by 200, That gives you 0.4. And then our last group, we just have 0 divided by 0. And that's how you get all those numbers. Let's look at the next page. So you guys are going to fill in some data, but just a few things to remember, that it tells you that this is the age-specific survivorship. So these are your ages, your survivors, your S of X, your deaths, your D of X, and your survivorship, which again is S of X divided by S of 1. So in this case, your formula will always be the S of X for that group divided by 100. So remember again, 100, you're going to subtract the deaths. That'll give you 60. 60, subtract the deaths. 60 minus 25 gives you 35. 35, subtract 15 deaths. That'll give you the next one. And then you're going to figure out the rest of these. And then you're also going to calculate your S of X. So again, remember, you're going to use this formula. Whatever the S of X is, you're going to bring that over. So in this case, we had 100 divided by 100 equals 1, right? Our S of X was 100. Our S of 1 is also 100. It's the same number in this case. That's why we got 1. So the next one, you have our S of X is 60. We divide it by 100, and that gives you 0.6. So you're going to use that information, and you're going to calculate out your L of X's. And then you're going to answer the questions. How many were in the cohort, meaning the group originally? So you start with the original amount of survivors. What is the value of D of X of 2? So what you're going to do is you're going to go to 2, and then you're going to go over to your D of X number. And then you're going to figure out, you're going to look up when X is 3, what's your S of X? You're going to go over, find out your S of X. And when S of X of 3, you're going to go here. Sorry about that. And then your L of X is 4. You're going to look at your age. You're going to go over and see what your calculation for L of X was. So make sure you fill in this data. All right, on the next page, you're given a table. And what you need to do is you need to plot the graph. So given this information, here's your x-axis. So your x values are found here. And your L of X values, you're going to plot them over here. And so you're going to see where the figures or the values meet. Your x is 0, L of X is 1. So you go to x is 0, and then you find your L of X of 1, and you put your dot there. So make sure you plot the graph on this page or you're going to lose points. Now let's talk about the squirrel data. So you don't do simulations 1, 2, and 3 because we're not in the lab and you don't have the supplies to do it. So you're going to change your graph to look, your data table to look like this. And then you're going to do a graph of X versus L of X for this. So make sure you do that. Now, you're going to put your years, and on your data sheet, it tells you 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. So you can fix that on your data sheet. You started out with 207 individuals dying. These are also your D of X, so you tally the number dying at each age. This number is going to also translate into your D of X. So these two columns should be exactly the same. Your S of X, the number that you started with, number of squirrels you started with was 337. And then you're going to copy all of your squirrels into that column, 337, 252, 127, 67, 35, 19, 9, 5, 4, 1. And then you were given your L of X, also the percent survivorship. And so again, you can see 1 and 0.386, 0.197, 0.106, 0.054, 0.029. And if you want to stop the video right here, do a little pause so that you can copy this or make sure that what you did was correct, that would be great. So again, you need to do two graphs. This is one graph here, one of your graphs is the x versus the L of x. All of the directions I'm making a graph are in the lab, so read them over carefully. Make sure you are labeling all of the parts of your graph. You're labeling what x is. You're labeling what L of x is, so explain a legend of what that is, and then you're plotting out x versus L of x. You're going to, for your graph, just use these numbers to graph. So it's 0 and 1, 1 and 0.386, 2, 0.197. Because your L of x numbers are so small, make sure that you're only going between 0 and 1 here, that you are on your L of x, which is going to be on this side of your graph, you're putting 0 and you're putting 1 all the way up here, and you're doing like skipping 3 boxes and doing 0.1, skipping 3 boxes, 0.2, skipping 3 boxes, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8. So maybe 2 boxes, whatever. I think it probably 3 boxes. You skip between 0, 0.1, skip 3 boxes, 0.2, skip 3 boxes, 0.3. That will give you a nicer line. So just make sure you skip that out. If you are so motivated and you want to do it on the computer, feel free to. The other graph that you're doing, we give you the data for the US and for the, I think it was Nigeria, you're doing, or whatever other country it was, you're doing those two, both of them on the same graph. So you're going to put them both on the same graph paper. So you should have 2 graph papers. And then you're going to take pictures of all of your pages and upload them. All right. So hopefully that will help you a lot with doing this lab. It's pretty cool to kind of think about like how we can look at survivorship, perhaps even apply it to the modern time, and gives us some good idea of looking at what's going on in a population. So enjoy the math. Math is good. I love math. And, get this lab done. Thanks so much. Have a good day. Bye.